put this, but today was chaos from start to finish. It was another float to med-surg day, and I'm like pretty tired of floating to med-surg. It's really nice sometimes to just focus on your two patients, and I'm sure you'll understand what I mean by that. But having my mind split in 4 or 5 different directions never really works well for me. I feel like I'm frazzled all day long. Makes me wonder how I managed to do that. I guess that's what made med-surg nursing so difficult after a while, is just doing that every single day, 3 times a week for like all these years. It just really wears on you. But I walk in and the nurse who had the patients last night was already like, oh my gosh, I had such a busy night. They gave me 2 admissions back to back, and it was hard for her to keep up, and so she kept apologizing that, you know, she hadn't completed everything. She goes, I'll be back later if I forgot anything. And I was like thinking, I'm like, that's kind of weird. Like, everything seems fine and no one's like calling or crawling out of bed or anything like that. And it was just kind of, I don't know, this whole trip from start to finish, because as soon as she leaves, all of a sudden it's like family members calling, the doctor's calling, new orders here and there, abnormal things happening to the patient. Like my one patient who took up a lot of my time, and when I say that, I'm grateful that I was there for her. I don't mean to say that in like any sort of negative connotation. Like, I'm glad I was there to help her, because that's what my job is. But she needed a lot of my time because she kept losing her IV sites, and we had an ultrasound guided IV by the PICC nurse, and that went bad. And it was just like, you know, taking the IVs out, and we were concerned that she had a blood clot in her lung because she was having a fast heart rate, and her oxygen needs have increased. She just wasn't doing very good. And it's always scary, because if they have a pulmonary embolism, a blood clot in their lungs, you have to, you know, usually start them on possibly a heparin drip right away. And this is not something that really should be delayed. However, due to last night, they lost the PICC line, and they had to take her back to her room, and she didn't even get the test. So that was really frustrating. So she didn't even get the test that she needed. Nobody could actually place another line in her. No one could get another line because she's such a hard stick. And I guess the doctor didn't find it critical enough to place a central line immediately. But as time goes on, we can't get PICC lines. I guess her veins are so bad. Sometimes people's veins can be so bad that it's like, they call them tortuous vessels in some way, shape, or form, or they don't hold up very well to being poked for some reason. Some people just have those types of veins, and she definitely did. Any type of like antibiotic or like medication that was like rough on the veins, her veins would want to blow. So it was like really hard because you had to watch those IV sites really closely. I felt really bad for her. Then we lost our midline. A midline is one of those deeper, more reliable tunneled like IV catheters, pretty long. That started to leak, and then the doctor came and looked for a central line, but ended up placing an ultrasound guided IV. And so that's what I left her with in the hands of the next nurse. So I'm telling you this, and I'm like, I got mad today. I was mad that today was the way that it was. I floated to this wing of med-surg. They didn't even have like a charge nurse. They had one nursing assistant. We had 12 patients, so there's like 3 nurses. Each of us had 4, and then we had 1 nursing assistant. It was better than it could have been, because my colleagues nursing their assignments, they seemed to be equally busy. And one of them, we had a guy with dementia trying to crawl out of bed all day. He was just yelling and screaming, and he could only be consoled if his wife was there, which is honestly kind of adorable, but at the same time, that's not good, because that means if she goes home or needs a break, then we can barely manage him at all. And those patients, they don't do good if you give them medication to calm down. It usually makes them worse over time because they get more delirious, and their brain chemistry as an elderly brain, it just doesn't tolerate those types of medications well. They usually get more confused and delirious, we call it in the hospital. So that was hard for the nurse taking care of the patient. We have to make sure they just don't fall out of bed, and that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to crawl out of bed the whole day. But finally, we get the IV line in my patient, and I try to get a hold of CT, and nobody's like answering the phone whenever I call. And all these patients are calling, and it's like crazy all the time, every single moment. Something happening where I have to do something. None of us could really even sit down all day to like even chart a thing. We had to kind of just force our way to chart everything. Sometimes that's how it is. That's reality. Oh my gosh. I texted my husband, I go, I can't believe how today is going. Today is crazy. I'm still processing it. You guys are seeing my first explanation of how it went. That same patient had this accordion drain, and we had to get it swapped out because there was getting too much air inside. So the radiologist, the radiology department came down and changed it for us, which was great. But yeah, it's actually really hard. That patient that I was telling you about this whole time, she didn't actually speak English. She spoke another language. And that's really hard for the patient, and it's hard for the staff, because interpreting services is provided, but it's not always perfect. Like, we can't always get it every second. And I don't know, I'm always grateful when we can have a family member present so we can communicate just basic things that are, not a big deal. Like if the patient is uncomfortable and needs a reposition or something like that. But it's honestly so hard, I think. Patients, they never seem to like mentally be like distraught about it though, which honestly makes me it makes me like have question marks, because I'm like, if I was in another country and I couldn't communicate as well with the people that are taking care of me, this is like a really big deal. I would feel really like vulnerable, I think about this from time to time. So that's why I always, make a good effort to get interpreters and do all these things that we're supposed to do to try to communicate and make sure all the questions are answered, because that would be really scary if the roles were reversed, right? My nursing assistant, bless her soul, she saved the day. I don't know what I would have done if we didn't have one, but at this facility they do a really good job with, I feel like we almost always have the nursing assistants and always have like turning help or something like that. All the other places I've worked, we haven't really had that support that I feel like I'm getting now when it comes to like nursing aides and like help turning. And when I say turning, it means, to the patients that can't really move on their own and they need help. I realize that some people who watch the videos are not medical professionals, so I think it's always, it's important to kind of explain what I'm talking about too for those of you who are interested in hearing how the day, what a day in healthcare, like the life of a nurse is like. And these patients, they'll get skin breakdown and bed sores, which can be a source of infection, and if left untreated, they could become a source of, or become a reason somebody passes away, because they can become infected. Yeah, but the nursing assistant, she really came through, and I could tell she was really working. Like, sometimes you notice when you're working a busy shift, there's a disproportionate amount of busyness on you instead of your colleagues. They're I feel like other people aren't pulling their weight around here, but she definitely showed up and was doing it. So that was incredible, because that's not always the case. I think, every single nurse has worked a shift where they feel like they have to really rally for support. And even though today was one of those days where I felt like I had to rally for support, I feel like the support was pretty much there, minus not having a charge nurse, because we did have a break nurse. That was amazing. One of our, we pretty much were ICU and med surg today. We had me and one of my colleagues were over there working over there with the one nurse that works over there most of the time. But one of our other colleagues came over from they came from home to help out with breaks, and that, let me tell you how nice that was. And yeah, I don't need you guys to think that I'm sitting here thinking today was all bad and all chaos, because it wasn't. It could always be worse. We could have not had breaks at all. And many people work days like that, strings of days like that in a row, and I've been there before, and it's not pleasant. It makes you feel like you're going crazy. It makes you feel I don't know, it makes you just feel horrible. So honestly, I'm grateful, because it could always be worse. Yeah, if you guys feel inspired and you have a memory on your brain about any of your chaotic days recently, I'd love to hear how you handled it, and I guess the silver linings of your day. I think another silver lining was the nurse manager of the floor gave us all cookies before she left early. She had to go somewhere, so she gave us cookies for Valentine's Day. That was great. And I normally don't like to eat food like that. This morning I finished telling you guys that I treat my nutrition very important, prioritize my nutrition because of my previous pre-diabetes. And I have no idea why the highway is stopped. Anyway. Yeah, I took a couple bites of that cookie, and I was like, I gotta not be this person who eats this cookie right now, because I don't want to sometimes you eat those types of foods and you're you just want more of it. You just become more of it becomes on your taste buds, on your palate, and then you start to kind of want that type of food more. Isn't that true about fast food and all the food that we know we should eat less of? It's so easy to just get it in your system, and now you crave it. And if you've ever taken yourself off of sugar or taken yourself off of those types of foods, you will recognize you don't have the same craving for it or the same taste for it as you once did, because of the fact that it's out of your system and those things aren't telling you. There's certain chemicals in foods like that make you, sugar being one of those kind of addicting, dopamine spiking things, and just the way that it makes your blood sugar rise and fall, makes certain sensations happen in your body hormonally. Yeah, if you've ever taken yourself off of sugar, you know what I'm talking about. By the way, if you have, let me know in the comments. I don't think I've ever taken myself completely off of sugar, to tell you the truth. I guess, yes, at the beginning of when I started healing, but I substituted with like erythritol and things like that to help promote a better blood sugar balance, and it worked. But you guys, it's been real. I'm glad today's over. I just could not wait to get out of there. I usually am not like that. I'm usually not that person who's just like watching the clock and can't wait to go home. But today I just felt like it was just too much. And that's just how it goes sometimes when you're at work. It's never completely stress-free, right? Anywho, love you guys. Have a good evening. And subscribe, join our family. I'll talk to you guys soon.